Good morning, everybody. It's me, your boy Waddles, and welcome back to the Everything series. It's time to get loud. In the 11th episode of this wonderful thing that we call the Everything series, we're going to talk all about the Goat Horn, Minecraft's most unique item. Did you know that the Goat Horn is the only item that has a cooldown when it's not even in your inventory, and also the only item that drops from a mob and then doesn't? Meaning, like, the goat drops his horn from an interaction that doesn't even necessarily involve the player. It does it again, and then you're done. No more horns. If you're already familiar with the goat horn sounds, drop your favorite sound down in the comments below, either by name or, I guess, try and spell the sound? Yeah, drop a like, subscribe, and let's go. From the start, the goat horn has been unique. The development of this feature is pretty different compared to other features in the game. Initially an unannounced part of the cave update, this thing first made it into the game in 2020. Like 2 whole years ago, 2020. Now, unfortunately, we can't access old developmental versions of Bedrock Edition, but we can kind of recreate it over here on Java Edition. When the goat horn was added in Bedrock Beta 1.16.200.52, it sounded like this. That's it, the raid sound. If you've been around in the Minecraft community longer than the goat horn, then you know that initially there was only one of these things, and it was mysterious. The community kept theorizing and theorizing and theorizing. Hey, is there anything going on in your head, buddy? You see, initially being part of the Caves and Cliffs update alongside the Warden, and the Warden is super unique to vibrations or sounds, the community's biggest theory was probably that this thing would have stunned the Warden somehow. Nowadays, well, look, nowadays in game, it doesn't exactly stun the Warden. Nope. Let's go back to the development for a second. So, initially added into the game on October 28th, 2020, on Bedrock Edition, this thing would make it into 1.16 betas, 1.17 betas, 1.18 betas, and eventually find its home inside the 1.19 betas. The Goat Horn's full release came 2 updates later than the mob that you get it from, in 1.19. On the Java side, things are way more straightforward. The horn was added in 1.19 snapshot 22W17A. That dropped about 1.5 years after the goat horn dropped on Bedrock. Crazy. From the start of this thing's lifetime on Java Edition, there have been 8 variants with 8 different sounds. And that catches us up to now. Oh, well, that's not good. Why are you doing that, Warden? If you're starting from scratch and looking to get a goat horn inside of your survival world, then you have 2 options. One of your options, the natural route, is a goat. You're gonna need to find a goat. Goats spawn inside of the cold mountain biome, so probably start there. Head over to a nearby mountain and look for a goat. Then you're gonna need to get that goat angry, but not like angry at you, angry at a block. Strange, but also really, really cool. So check out this goat. I just found this in this world. The goat has 2 horns. That's good. If the goat has horns on its model, that means it can still drop the horns. Now, to get this thing to drop the horns, you don't take it out or anything like that. You wait around for this thing to try and ram into a block. But not just any block. You're gonna need the goat to smash its head into a solid, hard, natural block. As in a block that naturally generates near where it actually spawns. So that could mean something like coal ore, iron ore, copper ore, maybe something like stone, or maybe even any of the log types that exist in the game. The goat has to smash its head into a hard block though, so something like dirt, a little bit softer, that's not gonna work. Goat plus ram charge thing plus hard block, and boom, a goat horn drops. Now, long story short, goats decide to charge at entities, not blocks, so either stand in front of the block and move really, really quickly, or set up some sort of simple trap to pull this off. Here's a simple machine that I set up. It looks like a lot, but it's actually pretty simple. On the inside of this thing, I have 2 chambers. I have this outside chamber with some extra goats, and then on the inside, I have an inside chamber with 1 goat. In line with this goat constantly, I have an armor stand on top of a honey block next to a sticky piston. There's also a tripwire set up right over there. When the goat walks across the tripwire, the piston is enabled and the armor stand is pulled out of the way. Behind the armor stands, I have those solid hard blocks we were just talking about. Basically, if this goat ever decided to actually ram into this armor stand, it would charge the armor stand from like somewhere back here, hopefully, and then miss the armor stand because it hit the wire and the armor stand moved. The goat would hit the block, the horn would drop on the ground. If you'd like to know more about the goat, then let me know with a comment down below. I could definitely make an episode on this interesting mob. It's super cool. Finally, for the goat today, like, quite literally, if you take the goat out with, like, your sword or something, you will not get the goat horn. The only way to get the goat horn from the goat is that whole block ramming mechanic thing. Don't take the goat out. If you haven't tried it in survival, as you can maybe guess from the sounds of that mechanic, it's not exactly the easiest thing to pull off. Maybe the easier way to get a goat horn is going to be in a structure, the Pillager Outpost. Pillager Outposts inside of 1.19 have the chance to generate with a goat horn inside of this loot chest. So this time around, unfortunately, not so lucky. And that's the catch. Just like with Alley Cage generation, every outpost does not always come with a goat horn. But it can. It definitely can. And when it does come with a goat horn, every single time, it'll be one of the goat horns that you get from the normal, non-screaming goat. Let's talk about that. I can't believe I've done this to you. We're this far into a video all about goat horns, and I haven't even told you that there are technically 8 different goat horns in the game. Let's start with the names of these things. We have Admire, we have Gall, we have Dream, we have Feel, we have Ponder, we have Seek, we have Sing, and then finally, we have Yearn. So 8 goat horns total. When you have a goat, it will drop one type of horn. But remember, we kind of have 2 types of goats in the game. Screaming goats and non-screaming goats. By simply looking at a goat, there's no way to tell which goat horn that goat is going to drop. You're going to need to get it to actually drop a horn first. But by listening to the goat, we can kind of narrow things down. A normal, non-screaming goat can only drop the goat horns Feel, Ponder, Seek, or Sing. On the other side of things, the screaming goat can only drop the Admire, the Call, the Dream, or the Yearn goat horn. Kind of interesting, right? It definitely makes these things even more unique. Now, it's time to sit down.
Settle in, get cozy, get that tea. It's time for some good music. The goat horn.
Well, anyways, it's time to get cozy. Next up, we're going to listen to all of the goat horn sounds. Every goat horn makes one sound, no matter which direction you're facing or how you're standing when you play it. We'll go in alphabetical order, starting with, of course, Admire. Next up, we've got Call. Then we've got Dream. After Dream, we've got Feel. And after Feel, we've got Ponder. This one is Seek. A little familiar, right? It's the raid sound. This is Sing. And the grand finale, last but not least, Yearn. One simple instrument, 8 unique sounds. How does it work? Tags. The addition of the goat horn came with the addition of a new tag set, the instrument tag. This is probably the setup for the future. With the addition of a brand new tag set for the goat horn, the instrument tag, this means in the future, if the devs wanted to, they could add other instruments into the game with other instrument tags. Kind of interesting. Do you think they'll add more instruments? Inside of one of the 1.18 betas, there was actually an item called the Copper Horn, or 8 items. There was 1 copper horn for each goat horn. Now each copper horn actually made 3 different sounds. 3 times 8, that's 24. The copper horn was almost the second instrument to be added to Minecraft, but unfortunately, that feature was cut from the update. It's not real, and I don't think that one's ever gonna be real. In survival, the only use for the goat horn right now is an instrument. That's gonna make this the first usable instrument in the entire game. Kind of interesting. Now in survival, when you use this thing, there's about a 6-second cooldown on every goat horn. Check this out. I use Admire right here. All of them are on a cooldown, even if I didn't use Dream or Ponder. It's a cooldown. Maybe even more interesting, check this out. The cooldown is literally everywhere. It's inside of that chest right there. It's inside of that item right there that's on the ground. The cooldown even exists inside of the creative inventory. That's pretty unique. So, an instrument. That's it. That's all that the goat horn does. It's literally just a sound. Yeah. In single player, the goat horn is probably not very useful, which is unfortunate. On a server, things are going to be a little bit different. If you use a goat horn on a server, players that are within 256 blocks of you will actually be able to hear that, as long as the server's view distance is extended that far. And when they hear you use the goat horn, well, they just hear you use the goat horn, that's all. A sound plays and that's it. I feel like there's so much more potential with the goat horn. Let's talk about that a little bit. One of my favorite simple ideas for the goat horn is villager panicking. I mean, after all, the Seek goat horn literally sounds like a raid. Wouldn't it be kind of funny if you went to a village, played the Seek goat horn, or maybe even all of them, and it sent the villagers into a panic? Like, you know how when you go to a village and a raid is starting, the villagers run around and they actually, like, literally start sweating? Yeah, maybe the goat horn could trigger something like that. That could be funny. That raid, my friends, that was not me. That's gonna be your problem. What about the Warden? The Warden is really sensitive to sounds. The goat horn Yeah, the goat horn is probably pretty loud. What if the goat horn could be used to stun the warden? Like, just for a second. After all, this thing is kind of unstoppable. Like, once it roars, screams at you, if you can't get away quickly with, like, an ender pearl, it's done. Maybe a goat horn, being able to calm it down for a second, just lock it up for literally 3 seconds. That could be really useful. Not into the idea of nerfing the warden a little bit? Well, fine, I understand. How about a sensitive sensor? So skulk sensors, they detect vibrations. What if a goat horn gave off a really, really strong vibration? Like, so strong that when you use the goat horn near this thing, it would stay on for longer. I mean, after all, some of those horn sounds, they kind of last for a second, right? Or maybe another multiplayer use. So for this one, I got a little help from my boy over there. He posted up on the side of the mountain. So my guy, go ahead and use the goat horn. And then I can hear it over here loud and clear. What if, when that happened, this happened as well? Glowing. A player who uses a goat horn gets glowing for like 10 seconds. That's it. I mean, look, imagine how useful that would be. Like, you're on a server trying to get somebody's attention. Say, hey, come over here. Just use the goat horn. You get glowing just for a short amount of time. Whoever used the goat horn, of course. And then you can find that person. Look, I don't know about you, but I love that one. I think it's perfect. It's so simple. Oh yeah, also, this is what it looks like when you use a goat horn. You hold it up to your mouth like that. That's so cool. What do you think? What should the goat horn be used for? Something like this, or maybe something completely different? Let me know down below. That's it for this episode. Everything Series episode number 11, the goat horn, Minecraft's only instrument and most unique item. I'd like to send a big thank you to my patrons, Archangel, Ground Crazy May, Hush Sound 34, and Lord Zenerum. Thank you so much for the support. If you enjoyed this week's episode on one of the most unique items in the game, then check out the last episode on one of the most unique mobs of all time. Like, subscribe, thank you for watching, it's me, Waddles. I'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye, everyone.